It's January 16th, 2023. This is Roqe. Well, hi there. Welcome to episode 230 of Roqe. Take heart. There may not be a fast-track solution, but there are many front lines in this new Iranian revolution. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto. Salam Dostan Aziz. Take heart. There are many front lines in this new Iranian revolution. Yes, the fall of the Islamic Republic depends on what the brave folks inside Iran can do, but it's about external pressure on an isolated theocracy too. The uprising is global, dear friends. There are many front lines in this new Iranian revolution. It's incumbent upon us to not simply judge success by the numbers out on the streets of Tehran, but also by the impact of the actions of those of us no longer in Iran. And so it was today that thousands descended upon the small city of Strasbourg in France near the German border, the home of the European Parliament, to call on EU governments to include the IRGC in the list of terrorist groups. It was an inspired turnout with a gazillion jianghomeshi flags and the collective raising of the Iranian fist, and members of the parliaments of various European nations joining the speakers list, each oration imploring the world to no longer ignore, each representative asking governments to punish the IRGC and do more. And you see, we have to count this as a win. It's not all going to come at once. It's a marathon that we're in. And some of the victories will be from inside the Iranian borders, but other significant steps will emanate from diasporic orders. Try to think of the end of this regime as coming less from one big shot at the mullah's nose, but rather an incremental erosion of power, the death of 1,000 blows. Wearing the murderers down through a war of attrition, coming at them from every angle, every worldwide position. Take heart. There may not be a fast-track solution, but there are many front lines in this Iranian revolution. That's why it's so hard to gauge momentum at times during this period, because it's not in one big demonstration or one national strike. It's from individual bravery, slogans on walls, social media campaigns, civil disobedience, economic suspension, and international attention. It's in the young Iranian women and men demanding a nation that is free. It's in the de facto opposition leaders coming together with one collective decree. Don't judge the insurrection book by its cover design. Consider the aggregate leading to this regime's decline. Thank you, organizers at Strasbourg today, for providing a necessary intrusion. There are many front lines in this new Iranian revolution. Coming up on this edition of Roqe, actor and activist Navid Negahban, social media influencer and professional coach Dr. Shahab Anari, plus the Roqe Roundtable. This is Roqe, episode 230, The Uprising. There are many front lines in this revolution. Right, back here in Toronto in the Roqe studio after a week or so of being away. Nice to be back. I have been in the Middle East where it was warmer than it is here. Hello, Shaya.
Hi.
And hello, Daria.
Hello.
First time in 2023.
It is first time.
Nice to have you back here. Pega, our familiar voice and who has been joining us for the roundtable for the last few months, is away this week. Still away, but back next Monday. So, Pega, have fun where you are, or an interesting time. And so much has happened in the last week and a half. It's kind of a najur time to go to not be here, even though I was doing work, Roqe related stuff when I was away. I miss being in the studio, reacting to the things that are happening, and also to events that are happening in Toronto. We're going to get to that, what we've missed, what we've talked about in the last week and a half. We also have Navid Negahban coming up later in the show. Navid has been on our program before. He is a prolific, famous Iranian-American actor. The guy has been in everything. He's been in big feature films and also in smaller indie films. You know him from Tehran, from 24, from The West Wing, from American Assassin, his voiceovers on big animated films. He has been very outspoken since the uprising began 4 months ago, and so he will be joining us to give us his perspective. He's also been very outspoken about speaking to people inside Iran, saying, get out on the streets, come on, let's go. So he joins us from Lisbon coming up. And in a few minutes, Dr. Shahab Anari will join us here in the Roqe studio. Dr. Anari has been on the show as well before. He is a business person, a social media influencer. He's got a huge following, and a professional coach.
Right.
Meaning it's not just that he's a professional coach, he coaches professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's going to talk, we're going to talk about something that we haven't been talking a lot about, is what can professionals or business people, especially those in the diaspora, people who own businesses, people who are doing professional work occupationally, what can they do to support the movement for freedom in Iran?
Yes.
And how is this affecting them? What is he learning from his clients as a professional coach from the work he's doing over the last 4 months? So Dr. Shahab Anari, always interesting, always has a lot of opinions. You don't want to miss him. He'll be coming up in the Roqe studio in just a few moments. I was in Beirut, Lebanon, and in some other places over the last 12 days or so in the Middle East. I had the occasion to interview the great poet and activist Hila Sadiqi.
Mm-hmm.
First time I've done that in person. She's been on our program before, but I'd never met her in person. We had quite an intense interview, feature interview, specifically talking about, there's been so much focus on executions.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, there's been 20,000 or more people imprisoned since the protests began, sometimes just for protesting or suggesting they're going to protest. And Hila Sadiqi, who of course has been arrested many times herself, she's now outside of Iran, but she famously got her public recognition start during the Green Movement, being this young poet, and has been arrested many times after that. She sheds insights on how imprisonment in Iran, especially political imprisonment, can be devastating. So even though people are not being executed, sadly, they are being tortured, psychologically tortured. Yes. They come out of prison, in some cases, a different person, and the torture doesn't end when you leave prison. Because you've been so affected by that, and it affects your job prospects, anything you're going to do after that with this regime still in power. So we had quite a conversation about that. She's so her perspective is riveting, and she's still living close to Iran and feeling the implications of her words. So Hila Sadiqi, we'll run that, bring that to you on Thursday. That was something that we taped. It's on camera as well, so we'll play the video of that. And so it was an interesting week and a half in the Middle East.
You said Middle East, and the place is warmer, but not every place in Middle East.
That's true. The places I went were warmer.
Yeah, Tehran, it's colder than Toronto these days.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
All right. Minus something in Tehran.
Oh, yeah, minus 14. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Okay. No, I was in, the coldest it got was Beirut, because then I went to the places I was kind of traveling in. It was warmer. I was searching for where we may be able to find some interesting information for a future documentary. In Beirut.
Was it the first time that?
First time I've ever been to Lebanon. And I have to say, my first real Middle Eastern stereotypical movie type experience.
Oh,
What happened?
I've been to a number of places in the world, but it's never been this trademark, like this textbook. So I land in Beirut, and I go to the customs area, and it's one of those. I mean, it just happened to be, but the airport was hot and the ceiling was low. It's not like It's not like O'Hare or the Frankfurt. It's not like a huge airport. It's kind of. And so I go to the area where, and there's guys in military outfits with machine guns and things like that. I mean, it's the Middle East. But I go to the place where I'm supposed to give my passport and, what are the customs or immigration, whatever. And I give my passport. It's Canadian passport.
Yes.
I'm Canadian, right? So I put the passport down, and the guy who's in a military outfit looks at me kind of sternly and goes, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, what? I'm from Canada. Look, this my passport is right there. No. Where are you from?
Oh.
Right? And I go, I'm from Canada. I've just, my previous passport, because I've traveled a lot in the last 10 years for all kinds of reasons, is packed, right? So I had to get a new passport. So this was my brand new passport. So there's nothing in it. There's like one stamp from, Amsterdam or something. There's nothing in it. It's like brand new. So it's the guy's looking at a brand new with nothing, No, where are you from? And I go, I'm from Canada. And he goes, well, where were you born? And I go, I was born in London. It says right there. I was born in England. I'm from England and Canada, and so this is the Middle Eastern movie thing where he goes, because I've never actually heard somebody say this. He goes, where is your father from?
Oh, interesting.
I got the where is your father from question.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he got, where is your father from? And I go, Iran, like looking, wondering what's going to come from me saying this. Yeah, because I know I've heard mixed things. Lebanon, they love Iranians. Oh, Iran, careful in Lebanon, they don't like Iranians. Hezbollah. So where's your father from? Iran. And then he says, why you don't have Iranian passport?
Oh,
God.
And he said it kind of angry, like I thought he was, mad. Like, isn't that interesting?
Oh, yeah.
Because I know they asked that question in Iran, obviously. If I travel to Iran, I'm not going to Iran. I'm in Beirut. Yeah. Why you don't have Iranian passport? And I go, well, because I'm Canadian, I don't have it, and so he's kind of getting frustrated. He's like, which is just so interesting, right? It's like, I've lived in this country for decades, but they just take one look at the passport and one look at my face and go, this guy's not from Canada. Where are you from? Like, I'm fucking Canadian. Look at the, So anyway, he goes, so this, honestly, in real time, it was probably about 6 or 7 minutes that he keeps questioning me, which is a significant amount of time. And I'm beginning to wonder, like I'm kind of half bemused, like, wow, well, look at the situation I'm in, but also half kind of feel freaked out, like, where is this leading to? What have I done? What's the problem, right? So then I remember that I have my old passport with me, just in case somebody needed to see, and I go, I'm a journalist, I've traveled a lot of places. Do you want to see my other passport? And he goes, oh, you have other passport? And I said, yeah. So I bring out, which is also Canadian passport, and it has, a gazillion. It has Sochi Olympics and, and Mexico and Japan or whatever. And so he went through that, and then he said, okay, and gonna let me go.
Okay.
I'm sure
got
that
a taste of it.
Yeah, I know that pales in comparison to what people have been through over the years. But I mean, just the where are you from, when and where's your father from, and it was pretty interesting. That said,
and not mother, just father.
Yeah, why is that?
I mean,
is that just a patriarchal thing, or is there a reason why?
I don't know. Like in Iran, at least, it's just like your ethnicity and your religion, everything passed through father. I think it's a Middle Eastern thing. I don't know.
Even if does it matter if you're a woman? Would he ask you where's your father from as well?
Oh yeah. It's gonna be always father, mother, non-existence kind of thing, which is very sad.
Yeah. All right, Navid Negahbon coming up. Dr. Shahab Anari in just a few moments in the Roqe studio. But let's first get to our Roqe Roundtable. So a few things happening around the diaspora, as I said, in the last week and a half, but we don't even have to go back very far because today was actually a pretty epic day. because we're in North America, much of this has already transpired in Europe, even though we're taping this in the early evening. So Strasbourg, France,
Yes.
today. Thousands of Iranians who live in various European cities gathered in Strasbourg, which is the seat of the European Parliament, right?
It is.
This was to call on EU governments to include the IRGC in the list of terrorist groups. What can you tell us about? I know this was an anticipated day. This was another one like the big Berlin demonstration, and one of those days where we hope we're going to see a big turnout. And so, what have you observed, Daria?
So in the past few weeks, it was announced, and Alireza Khundi, who's a member of Swedish Parliament, he was the main person who organized it. There were many announcements for people to go there, and then again, like Berlin, there were a lot of posts in social media of people, getting into bus together, into trains to get to Strasbourg to get to the demonstration.
Iranians from different parts of Europe,
from everywhere, and also not just Iranian. It was interesting from the photos that I saw today. There were many Ukrainian flags there as well, which we all know obviously what's the reason behind it, because Iran is sending missiles to Russia to attack Ukraine. So it's good that it's Iran, and it's not isolated to Iranian people that to push for that. But basically, the
it might also be, is it people who are supporting Ukraine or Ukrainians also in solidarity with Iranians, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, the reason for that demonstration was for pushing a motion that was proposed today in a European Parliament to put IRGC, which is Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, into terrorist list. This was passed today, so that doesn't mean that it's in the terrorist list yet. Tomorrow they're going to start debating on it, and on Thursday they will put it in vote.
Okay.
Which is going to be huge. It's going to be very huge because, basically, IRGC is whole Iran's regime. You cannot trade, or you cannot be in touch with Iran's regime without being in touch with IRGC. So it's going to be very big. But as they were saying, this is only the first step. The next step will be to block, if this passed, then they will block the money, which makes it harder for them to do all the money laundering that they do all around Europe, and make the government weaker.
I think they must have had some rule or call out to different countries to have different members of parliament. I was watching the videos today, I don't know if you guys saw that there was a lot of speakers who were MPs from different countries. There was somebody from Belgium, somebody from European Parliament, somebody from Germany. So that was intentional, probably.
That was definitely intentional. And then there were many more speakers that were scheduled, but because of security reason, they had to cut off the number of the speakers. But what they tried to do is to have one MP from each country to speak. So that's,
And what did you make of the turnout? Did it look like it was
It was great, actually. The official numbers from police of France, it's 14K, which is actually huge for a working day. It's Monday, and people who attended had to take days off and get there. So
we're spoiled by those numbers in Toronto and Berlin of 80,000, but 14,000 is significant.
That is great, because it was always on the weekend. It's way much easier to get there on the weekend. So it was a great day.
The date was determined because this was the day that the EU was putting this motion forward or something. So you're right, the middle of the day on a Monday.
It's Blue Monday also.
What's that again?
Blue
thing?
Blue Monday.
What is it, Blue Monday?
Oh, it's the third Monday of January. It's officially the most depressing day of the year. So
that makes
sense. It's called
that explains everything for the way we've all been moping around. These things I'm always I'm trying not to be, but I tend to sometimes go into a cynical place of, what's this going to do? But then when I was looking at it today, I was thinking, this is amazing This is really,
That is.
first of all, it's been a long time coming, because we've been saying this for months, and even including here in Canada. Canada gets so much credit for being, the Roqe country that's doing so much. Canada, it's still, the IRGC is still not on the terrorist list here fully. And so watching it today, I felt quite inspired. I thought, I mentioned it in that opening essay about there's many front lines to this revolution, and this being one of them. It's empowering. Strasbourg, France, a gazillion flags of Shida Khorshid and people cheering, and the woman who's the president of the European Parliament was really, her speech was really fiery,
Yes.
and it was like, wow, you still, if you've grown up like I have in the West, you're still amazed that we have allies at all, people supporting Iranians.
Absolutely.
It's like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah,
So,
and then also another thing that it's good news is that this, like putting them in the list of terrorists and sanction and everything, will not be applied to people who had to do the mandatory sarbazi, which is great news, because like that's always
been the
concern.
yeah. But that's such a red herring too. It's, of course you can carve that out. That's been the reason Canada has given her to not do this, and it doesn't make any sense. Surely you can make an exception. And
Yeah, it's laws and politics always.
all right, so so that's a positive. That's something positive, and it really speaks to a growing global acknowledgement of what is happening in Iran. Some of that global awareness has come because of the executions, which is good, but it's devastating that these executions are happening. But it's good that it's bringing global attention, I suppose. Kind of interesting, because executions have been happening for years in Iran. It's the worst in the world in terms of executions. So this is not new, actually, but under this regime. But the fact that it is getting attention. That said, it was probably the worst news. It was about a week ago, I guess, and I was away, but I saw the news. I think I was in Beirut of the two young guys, the latest executions. This is specifically executions around those who've just simply been protesting. And Daria, you were saying that it's funny. We'd been chatting, and you'd saying you don't actually have the energy to come even and be on the show when we were talking a couple of weeks ago, because you said you were just so wrecked by these executions. So can I ask you about that? What is it that how is it that these so affect you that you don't even want to come on and talk about it?
Well, it was 10 days ago at 6th January in Canada and 7th in Iran. So I'm gonna start with why this affects me personally. I'm pretty sure like everyone else it's the same.
Yeah.
I think first of all is like that that they're innocent. Like you feel them. You feel the same thing that they are protesting for. Obviously I'm far away from there, but I'm truly feeling them, and I can think that I could be that person there. Everyone are resonating with that, because each one of us could be that person.
Right.
And they're young. They're super young, and for no reason. Like one of them, Mohammad Mehdi Karami, he was only 22. Like he had his whole life ahead of him, and now it's gone for no reason. And then in these sham trials with no lawyer, nothing about that whole process was logical. Which as you said, it's not the first time.
Yeah.
But I think it's the first time that people are paying attention to it, and for us, knowing their stories make it very more personable.
Yes.
We've seen their pictures, we've seen their families going.
We've heard his voice.
We've heard his
He's the one who
voice.
left that message for saying to his dad, and he says, "I've been put on death row," don't tell mom. Yeah.
Yeah, and all I can think is that how innocent and how pure your soul must be to when you hear that, okay, your sentence is death, all you could think is that what my mom would think. Like honestly, like I think this is the first time I'm talking about it. I'm trying not to cry, because everything about it is so devastating. And on the other hand, there's Mohammad Hosseini, who he had no next of kin. He had no like close family.
Yeah.
They couldn't even get his body. They were not releasing his body because like by the law it's just like only parents or I don't know, like close families could get the body. And then after that you see that the family of Mohammad Mehdi Karami go to the graveyard of Mohammad Hosseini. So he like to celebrate his life and to like mourn his
Pay
loss.
tribute to him, yeah.
It's everything about it is like I cannot think of one single point that I'd be like, okay, like I'm not super sad about it. Like everything about that whole story of like how they were innocent and then just like they had to confess to something under like torture. And I know that like we've lost so many souls within the past 4 months. So many innocent people were killed, but execution hits us differently because it's just like these people were put in torture and like you systematically like you could kill them. It's so sad. And then the thing is that like, and one thing to your point that it brought more attention of the global attention to it, it's because they had political godparents,
Guardianships, yeah.
So and like everyone
didn't save them.
There
were some folks who were saying that these kind of political sponsorships were going to prevent the executions. It didn't happen. But you're so right about the stories being told because it really mitigates against that. You know, there are folks, unfortunately, I'm still running into them, who kind of go, well, there's bad things happening everywhere in the world, and we know that this is what it's like in Iran. What are you going to do? You know, and so it's easy to sort of brush this off as it's a cruel world, unfortunately. But when you get to know their names, and this is why I really have appreciated the say their names, tell their stories, part of this movement's language, you know, over the last few months, is because when you get to know these people as human beings, even a little bit about their stories, to hear their voice, to see other pictures of them, it really brings it home. You really start to, I mean, I think I was going to segue into talking about PS 752 and the memorials that happened around that. But one of the reasons that hits us all so hard is that some of us actually knew these people, you know, some of them on the plane, but also when we hear their stories, we go, they're just like us.
Exactly.
Now we know who, and yeah, I mean, Mehdi Karami, I mean, they're just these lives snuffed out, as you say, for nothing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, like knowing their stories just make it way harder to deal with, and it's great, and we have to keep doing that. And I mean, it's great because
sorry, what's great?
To know their story and to know what their family is also going through, and not just only them. And like a good thing that also happened is that there are also like 2 other people on the same like crime, if we want, like not crime, I don't know what to call it, but like in the same
charges.
Yeah, they had is Mohammad Boroghani and Mohammad Qobadlu. They're also sentenced to death by execution, and they're waiting for their sentence. And a couple days after the execution of Mohammad Karami and Mohammad Hosseini, there was some news on like it was at night in Iran, like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. that there were like these tweets going around that there is an ambulance on Rajai Shahr, which is the prison that they've been held, and the security guards are increasing, so there is a risk that they will be executed in the morning. Because another thing is that in Iran,
and people turned up there.
Turned up there. Yeah, like at 1 a.m. people like started going there, and then they demonstrated and gathered around the prison to overwhelm the guards. So like they cancel or postpone or whatever, like do something about not executing those 2, and they're still alive. I don't know, honestly, like I don't know if that was the reason or was some other things, but but the whole movement was so powerful.
It's heartening. It's heartening when you see people in Iran turn up like that. With virtually no notice, just like that. To
Exactly,
kind of,
like-
we've seen that before with Hossein Ronaqi around the hospital, and
It really doesn't help regime to scare people. It makes people more, more motivated, more passionate to go to protest against the regime.
does it? I mean, I think it certainly doesn't help the regime win any fans. I mean, it deepens the hatred. But I do feel like there's been a chill, over the last few weeks with these executions, with the brutality of this regime, that it has thrown a chill down the spine of the protests. Don't you feel that?
I'm not sure if it was because of the execution.
Yeah, true, maybe.
Yeah. For sure, a lot of parents, they probably wouldn't allow their children to go protest. But
Well, yeah, I can totally see my mom. Like if I was living in Iran, like I'm totally seeing my mom. It's like you're forbid from going anywhere.
You'd still go.
I would still go. Yeah. It's scary. So, but also like these little things, like people gathering around prison, it just shows that it not died out. People are still there. Because like at the same time, like there were some videos around the time that people were gathering around the prison that, like there were like sounds of shooting. I mean, I didn't at least see any news that people anyone got hurt, but I mean, that you're risking. You're going somewhere that people are armed,
right?
And you still go, and because you just want to save one more life, and it's inspiring, and
there's still people who, I mean, when somebody says, maybe balance it out a bit. Why are you guys talking so much politics or something? It's hard it's hard for me to get my head around that. I mean, maybe I'm just too deep in reading the news too much. But how can you talk about anything else when I mean, it's so barbaric what this regime is doing. It's impossible to. So, also a week ago, was the third anniversary of Flight PS752. Now, we did our show about a week and a half ago about that. Then I took off. I had to go to do this thing in the Middle East, and it really, really actually was really hard for me to be away from Toronto on that anniversary, because Toronto has really been one of the epicenters of grieving and action around PS752, and so it was very hard for me. It broke my heart to not be here, although I was posting about it and here in spirit, of course. But Shai, you were there at the memorial.
Yes,
a couple of the Roqe team members were there, and you and this is the one that was televised with Hamed, Ismailioun, and performances. Rana performed, and a few other people, and of course Nazanin Boniadi and Masih Al-Najad and Justin Trudeau and the leader of the opposition as well was there. So how did you feel about that event?
It was very emotional, very emotional. Like you could hear the sound of crying non-stop. And especially when they show the pictures and tell their names, said their names. Even some of the pictures, you don't know them, but by looking at their eyes, and I don't remember how many times I cried. It was very emotional. Beside that, the other thing that was interesting for me was it was kind of a debate between two parties in Canada. Justin Trudeau had his own speech, and then the leader of opposition,
Pierre Poilievre.
and actually his speech is is way more stronger than Justin. Yeah, and people cheered and like and that was interesting. And also Ahmed had his own speech, which he mentioned that Canada has to once and for all forever put IRGC in a terrorist list. And but the main picture was the non-stop crying.
Yeah.
And then after that, from there, people went to Melasman for
Yeah.
yeah.
And there were, to be fair, this was commemorated in cities around Canada, around the world too.
Yes.
This main event was in Toronto, but even I saw it being memorialized everywhere. It's tough. I'm not sure quite how to say it, but you know, on things like the anniversary of PS 752, you want to balance your mourning with turning that grief and commiseration, if you're in a group, into action somehow. Sometimes I feel like we already know all this sad news, you know, and now it's how do we come together? How do we collectively push this ball forward, right? And I know the families of the PS 752 have been trying to do that and have been on the front lines of actually this revolution, you know, in terms of organizing and trying to get people out and remembering those who've died. And
I have to mention that it was very well organized.
Oh yeah,
you know,
it was.
In compared to other Persian ceremonies, and it was really well organized. Yeah.
I was watching it online, and like even broadcasting it, it was great.
Looks good.
Like, it was great. So like I was, I told you, Jian, I was crying. Like obviously, like seeing all those names and pictures. Like half of it was like because of them, and half of it was like I wanted to be there and I'm not. So yeah, it was very well organized and touching.
Yeah. There's a couple of people that I knew on that plane, and one of them, we're still Facebook friends. Like they've never closed her Facebook page. So once a year, you know, when Facebook reminds you of the birthday, it always says it's her birthday, and you want to, you know, it always. I mean, these things crush me. So when I see their picture, they were a couple. It always, and it doesn't matter what time of year it is. When it is, it just crushes me. Just crushes me. It's just such an outrageous event. I still can't get my head around it. Shooting down a plane of innocent people. When we talk about the IRGC being put on the terrorist list, that is something that was, I guess, in concert with today's Strasbourg event. That was the call out from a series of tweets once again by some of the quote unquote leaders of the opposition right now in the Iranian diaspora last night. So Reza Pahlavi, Nazanin Bayadi, Ali Karimi, Masih Alinejad, and Golshifteh. They all tweeted the same thing all at once, and which was basically put the IRGC on the terrorist list.
Not Hamed.
Hamed Ismail conspicuously missing from that group this time.
But he tweeted a separate tweet about the same thing. But like he wasn't in the group.
Yeah, and how do we feel about that?
I'm sad.
That he's sad. Not that it just doesn't feel helpful.
Yeah.
Like I want everybody to get together.
Honestly,
I'm sure they have their reasons, but
I told you, like I don't know how to feel about it and what to say. Like I was very, very happy in New Year's Eve that they tweeted, all of them, including Hamed, the same tweet. Last night when I saw that, I mean, I don't want to comment about it because I know like there was a reason and we don't know about it, and anything that I would say is just like a guess. I wish he was he was part of that group. I wish, but I don't know why I wasn't.
Well, it's obviously difficult because the reason why there's a bunch of different people is they each have their audiences, and some of them are going to disagree with somebody else's group, and we know there's some really hard factions, and I know everybody, for example, so I guess it's a weighted thing, it's a heavy thing to do to join with these others, but it felt so empowering on New Year's Eve to see them. It takes things to another level of power. I actually wish there was more people, more prominent people joining these tweets, or maybe they're not getting asked to. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
especially that people are like they've been keep asking about an e'tilaf or hambastagi.
Coalition.
Yeah.
What?
Coalition.
Yeah, coalition.
So it was very great to see that on New Year's Eve, and it was still great last night to see like 5 of them tweet the same.
What's the word for coalition?
E'tilaf.
And what's the word for strike?
E'tisab.
Right.
And also e'tiraf.
And e'tiraf. And when those get used, I'm always like, which one is it again? Do we want a strike or a coalition?
They all come from an Arabic, I don't know what is it. It's enfa'al. It's all based on that.
What's enfa'al?
It's not like it's just like
iftial.
Is it iftial? Yes. Oh my god. I don't know.
It's getting complicated.
Yeah. They all come from the same Arabic root.
Yeah.
All right. We are coming to you on roqemedia.com. It's there. You can link to all of our platforms. We are on an ongoing mission to build a new audiovisual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity. We're on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, and CastBox. If you want to see some visuals with Roqe, switch over to our YouTube. And if you like your Roqe descriptions and bulletins in English and in Persian, check us out on Telegram. You can subscribe on any of those platforms and support us by pressing the button that says support us at roqemedia.com. Daria, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. We'll see you again here soon as part of the Roqe Roundtable. And thank you, Shaya.
Thank you.
Let us get to our first guest. My first guest has walked into the Roqe studio. He is an Iranian-Canadian public speaker and popular social media presence, where he's grown a large following for coaching and advice videos and interviews. Dr. Shahab Anari is the co-founder of a personal branding agency called North Star Success, where he helps clients across the world write, publish, and market their books. He published his first book entitled The How of Personal Branding, 3 C's to Become the Highly Paid Authority in Your Field. He's also a successful professional coach, and he was ranked among the top 25 Canadian immigrants in 2020. And right now, Dr. Shahab Anari joins me live in the Roqe studio. Hello, sir.
Hi, Jian. Thanks for inviting me back to the studio.
Nice to have you back here. And we're going to do something a little different from the last interview that was quite prescriptive, and have a free-flowing conversation, if you will. I like to think they're all free-flowing, but in this case, to keep it open to suggestion and as I like to say, using a Canadian metaphor, follow the puck, as we do in hockey. And that is to say, you are someone who deals with professionals. You are a professional yourself. That is business people or people who are who've been educated and are working in a particular field. And I want to talk to you about those people, both inside Iran and in the diaspora, and their relationship to this revolution and this uprising in Iran. So before we get to that, let me ask you, the coach and the business person yourself, how have you been processing the last 4 months as an Iranian immigrant yourself?
It's been a roller coaster, I should say. One day you're hopeful that something wonderful is going to happen during this uprising, and the next day you hear about all the crazy news coming out of Iran and the oppression and everything else, just recently the executions and so on and so forth. So it's been a roller coaster for me, I should say. I do my best. I take my own advice. I take care of my well-being. I do a lot of self-care. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to sustain my job and to take care of my family and to serve my clients. But overall, it's been a roller coaster. I'm still hopeful. I believe us Iranians, we've been, they say learned helplessness. I was looking for the word. In psychology, there's a term called learned helplessness.
Yes.
And it means, you've tried in the past to change your situation, to get out of pain and to move into the realm of possibility, but you've been unsuccessful.
Yes.
And because it has happened so many times, you enter a situation called learned helplessness.
Yes.
You've learned to become helpless. So a lot of Iranians, I believe, especially inside Iran, are struggling with this learned helplessness. And as an Iranian myself, I believe that's the poison that we need to move away from. Because if we become pessimistic and we think there's no possibility of getting out of this situation, then there's no hope for success for us. So, in brief, I say I'm still hopeful.
Well, that learned helplessness is a form of nihilism. A form of I don't think there's any future, so I don't care. That's something that often gets talked about as a trait of the youth in Iran after everything they've been through, what they've been born into, etc. And yet it's the youth who've been the leaders of this, of really changing the world for Iranians in the last 4 months, no matter what the outcome at this point, right?
Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't say it's necessarily limited to the youth, but any person who has tried to change their situation in the past multiple times to no avail, they are prone to get into this condition of learned helplessness. And the antidote to learned helplessness is to do accurate thinking. And let me explain that. Accurate thinking means do not be an extreme pessimist. There are 3 P's. Dr. Martin Seligman, one of the leaders of positive psychology, he says, if you're a pessimist, you tend to think of the situation you're in as 3 P's. It's permanent, it's pervasive, and it's personal. If you think of a bad situation as permanent, it's not going to change. Of course, you're a pessimist and you fall into learned helplessness. If you think of a situation as pervasive, meaning it's going to affect all different aspects of my life and it will ruin everything, you will fall into learned helplessness. And if you believe everything is your fault, it's all personal, it's because you're a bad person, then you will fall into learned helplessness. And the antidote to that is to think of the situation as temporary. Of course, we don't want to go from one extreme to the other extreme. We want to do accurate thinking. But most situations are not permanent. If you think of them, there are aspects that we can change. And in this specific situation regarding the uprising in Iran, it's all down to the people. It's all down to us whether it will remain permanent or it's something that we can eventually change. The second thing, pervasive. Yes, we've been hit, but what's been going on, they've cut off the internet in Iran, they have oppressed people, they have killed hundreds and hundreds of people.
They're executing people, yeah.
They're executing people, detained thousands and thousands of people. But, and those are horrible things that they've done.
Yes.
We cannot deny that. But at the same time, and it might sound like a cliche, but if we look hard enough, there are still things in our personal lives that we can be grateful for. I mean, I don't want to discount the horrifying things that they've done, but just the fact that a lot of us are healthy. We have our family by our side. We still have a shelter over our head.
You're talking about Iranians in Iran?
I mean, Iranians in Iran, or even outside of Iran. I mean, there are things.
We're not dead yet.
That, I know it might sound like a cliche, but it's not pervasive.
Okay.
It hasn't affected every single area of your life. A lot of Iranians inside Iran, they still have there's been some horrifying things going on, but they still have things that they can be grateful for.
Sure.
So that's the second thing.
Where does the third thing intersect with the revolution, with the current regime in Iran? Is it that we blame ourselves for the mullahs?
Yeah, that's the point. And let me emphasize this. I'm talking about accurate thinking. I'm not talking about meaningless optimism. I'm not saying you have to go from one extreme to the other extreme. Either it's permanent or it's going to change tomorrow. Either it's pervasive or everything is fine except for one little tiny bit of our lives. And the third point is personal, being personal. We are not the ones to blame. Part of the problem might be because of us as Iranians, meaning, let's say culturally, or we didn't do our research when we were, our parents, not us. Our parents.
They didn't do enough to stop the Khomeineists or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a part that we need to be accountable for, and our parents need to be accountable for. So it's not 100% personal. We are not the main cause of this.
Yeah.
We contributed, our parents contributed to this, but there are outside factors that have contributed to this.
But it's interesting that the self-blame leads to pessimism or inaction rather than leading to, I blame myself, so I got to do something about it.
Yeah, exactly. What meaning do you assign to it, right? And my main point here is that, going back to the idea of learned helplessness, that's the poison we need to get away from. If Iranians in Iran, especially the youth, tend to think of the situation as permanent and pervasive, and they tend to blame themselves and their parents for the situation, they will fall into learned helplessness.
But it's not just the people in Iran. There's a lot of us here in the diaspora, not maybe us, but a lot of people we know who fall into this pattern as well. Can learned helplessness be? Can you be acting in a learned helplessness way in some parts of your thinking or your life, or with respect to some things, and not others? For example, I was before Christmas or around that time. I was at a dinner party with some people, a couple of whom are very prominent, very successful Iranian Canadian business people, and so these are people who've created the conditions where they have become very successful in business. They've made a lot of money. They're doers, right? But when it came to the situation in Iran, the uprising, the revolution, whatever we want to call it, they would fall into this category of extreme pessimism. Their response was, "Khob dighe, this is the old thing, we've seen it over and over again. The regime is not raftani nistan hala, we're not going to be able to get rid of them. This is fantasy." So, and what that leads to, I'm sitting there listening to these guys going, well, as long as you guys are thinking that way, it's either an excuse or it's a reason for your own inaction. And then we're missing these successful and potentially influential people from helping to create the change that everybody seems to want. So that learned helplessness may not exist in other parts of their life because they're successful, or materially at least. But it seems to be the case for Iran. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. So in this specific example, those people have learned to look at the business situations in an optimistic manner. So when they fail in a business endeavor, or when they get rejection by a big client, or they lose a big business account, they tend to not think of it as a permanent situation. They know that they will get the next client, or the situation will eventually sort out.
Right.
Or This one client that they have lost, or the failure in the business that they have experienced, is not pervasive. It has not affected their personal lives, their health, and so on and so forth. So there are other areas in their life that are operating well. And also, it's not all personal. Part of it might be personal. They have to take responsibility for their actions.
Sure.
But other things might have contributed to the situation as well. So they have learned to be optimistic in their business endeavors, but not necessarily in the political situation that all of us are experiencing right now.
But the funny part about that is the way I'm guessing, the way they would see it is they're not being inaccurate. They're the accurate ones who are being, quote unquote, realistic about the situation in Iran. Those of us who are fighting for change would be the dreamers. Well, in other words, I don't think they see their pessimism as learned helplessness. They would see it as, I'm being realistic. I know the situation in Iran. I was there a couple of months ago. There's nobody in the streets. No, you're foolish or you're a dreamer to think there's going to be change.
That's right. And let me tell you this. Nobody thinks of themselves as unrealistic. Everybody thinks that their truth is the truth with the capital T. But our truth is our truth with the small t. It's the reality that we are seeing right now. And it's not the whole spectrum of things. So going back to that specific example, those business people, they're not being realistic. They're not seeing the whole view of the reality. And for any of us who falls into this learned helplessness, to this desperation and frustration with the current situation right now, some people say, there's no uprising, it's all done,
right.
It's finished. Right. No, it's not finished. Again, going back to the 3 Ps, the situation is not permanent. It has changed,
right.
And it can change. It's not pervasive. It has affected a lot of aspects of our lives, but there are still areas.
It's already changed a lot.
Yes, of course. Yes.
If not nothing else, attitudes about the future, for sure.
Of course. And on top of that, the awareness that this uprising has created among large populations in Iran and outside of Iran, both Iranians and non-Iranians,
yes.
A lot of people have got to know this regime. And this is a great achievement. I know that some people are willing to see bigger changes, but I believe it will take much longer time.
Let me slightly move from this into the sort of area of the professional coaching, and when you're talking about business people, and you've actually done seminars on business in crisis, and we'll sort of get to that. But one of the things that I'm hearing from people over and over again, regardless of the field of their work, is that by people I mean Iranians, in the diaspora, is that they are having trouble focusing. They're having trouble working. They're as Dr. K, who was on the show 2 or 3 months ago, was talking about the insomnia that a lot of Iranians are experiencing, having trouble sleeping, scrolling through the bad news constantly. What are you telling professionals who come to you as part of the regular coaching you do, or who are saying, in general, I am having trouble doing my work?
Yeah. First of all, I'm not here in the, I cannot give advice as a psychologist.
Yes.
I wanted your audience to know that I'm not a psychologist. Yeah, I'm a professional coach. But to answer your question, let me start by saying this. I believe that the business owner, the Iranian business owner, whether inside Iran or outside Iran, they need to keep their business going. It's an obligation. It's a moral obligation. It's an ethical obligation. Why? Because the business owner, first, they have to stay loyal to their dream, their own dream. They have started their business, they have put in this effort, energy, to build a dream for themselves and their family. So they have to stay loyal to their dream. Number 2, they have to take care of their family. So you can't say, okay, we have the uprising, so you have to stop everything. Mm-hmm. And 3, if you keep your business afloat and you keep serving people and earning money, then you will have the assets to support this movement if you want to support the people who have been hit in so many different parts of our country. So I believe business people shouldn't just shut down their business and focus on the uprising. Of course, they need to focus on the uprising. We all need to. We all care about Iran. We all care about this change and this big thing that's happening in Iran. But the right way to do it is not to shut down your business.
But is there a hypocrisy of expectation when it comes to different fields that people work and live in? For example, we talked about this a little bit on this show, and maybe I'm overly sensitive about it because I come from the arts and the communications and the media. But certainly if you're in the arts and if you're in that general category, especially if you're a prominent actor or you're a musician or you work in film or if you're a public speaker, etc., you're in media, you are expected, by which I mean the Iranian community, is expecting those people to be outspoken, to be using their platform, to be doing something for the cause, for the uprising, for the revolution, etc. I don't see the same pressure being put on the dentist and the real estate agent and the plumber. Is there hypocrisy there?
There is hypocrisy there. I do believe that. And there is a remedy to that.
Okay.
What I've been doing as a, I would say, quote unquote, social media influencer or a public speaker, and what I've been advising my clients to do is to dedicate one channel of communication to the uprising and be the voice of people just 24/7 or however often they want to be active on that social platform. And also dedicate other channels to keep their business moving forward. Again, I believe it's a moral obligation. Yeah, you need to make money to sustain your message. If you want to help people, you can't just shut down your business. So what I've been doing is, for example, on Instagram, I have been the quote unquote voice of people, and I've been, posting about the revolution. But on my other channels, for example, on email, I do email marketing. On Telegram, I post within my area of expertise. So I have been selective.
Is it the same audience?
There is overlap. There is overlap.
But if there isn't, then the email people are not hearing your missives about the revolution?
I wouldn't say there's 100% similarity,
Okay.
or they're 100% the same, but there is overlap. And a lot of other business owners have done the same. They have dedicated one channel to just the revolution and the other channels to keep their business going. That's one way to do it. I'm not saying that everybody can do the same. A lot of people, especially online businesses, especially inside Iran, they have been active on Instagram and they don't have other channels. So I can't.
But I don't want to harp on this, but think about how much pressure was placed on those football players on Team Melli. Think about the musicians who've been told this is not a time to play concerts. A couple of prominent musicians who were booed because they went ahead with a tour how dare you play? That is not being said to, engineers. I mean, part of me thinks, well, if it was said, okay, everybody in the Iranian community around the world, you need to devote some of your time away from your work and put it into supporting the revolution, then we potentially have a different outcome. Or stop carping at the musicians and let them play gigs.
I empathize with those people. I try to look at the situation through the lens of their eyes. Probably they're thinking, okay, this influencer, they have a large social media following. They have to take advantage of this platform and be the voice of people. I do understand that. But that's only one aspect of the whole reality. Those people who expect everybody, especially the people in arts or the sports people or the influencers, to dedicate their whole life to the revolution and uprising and not post anything else on their social platforms, they're missing other aspects of the situation. Just like I said, if this business owner or this artist or this media person, if they stop their business and if they shut down their business, over time, they'll lose their impact. They'll lose the ability to sustain their message. They'll lose their platform. Let me give you an example. I posted very heavily about the uprising, especially in the first and second months, and I was shadow banned by Instagram, I would say. My reach dropped dramatically. Yeah. And people, the Arzeshis they kept reporting my profile. I got messages from Instagram. So I'm just one example.
Right.
If I shut down, if Shahab or anybody else, they shut down their business and they get shadow banned and they lose their platform, they will be of no use. They can't help people. They can't support the movement. So there should be some kind of balance. Again, I'm against any extreme kind of thinking. Just like I mentioned when we were talking about learned helplessness, we need to do accurate thinking, not go to the extremes. And again, in the business world, there should be some balance between supporting the uprising, of course we do that, and keeping the business afloat.
There were people, it's sort of, I don't hear this as prominently now, but certainly a month or two ago, there was, or three, there were people who were very, very pointedly calling for business owners inside Iran to close down their businesses in solidarity with, if everybody closes down their business, the country comes to a halt, the regime falls. It's the very, very simplistic version of the philosophy around it. Did you have any sympathy for people who are calling for that?
I empathize with them. I try to understand them, just like I said.
But you don't agree with them?
I don't agree with that. No. Just like I said, I think business people, they have a platform. They should be able to take care of their family. They should be, again, I go back to the word, sustain the message. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. Yes. And all of us need to be in it for the long haul. What people don't want, those who are aching for change, is business as usual, right? If everybody doesn't do something because they don't want to be shadow banned or because they've got to keep feeding their kids, then nothing changes. Yes.
So where is the balance?
Balance. That's where the concept of balance comes in, and it's different for every person. The business person himself or herself, they have to decide what kind of balance they want to create. Just like I mentioned in my case, and the way I advise my clients to operate is to dedicate one channel to the uprising and the other channels to marketing and sales. That way you are supporting the revolution, and you are being the voice of people, and you are empathizing with the sufferings that's going on, and at the same time you are taking care of your family. The problem arises when that business owner acts business as usual and says nothing about the uprising, does nothing to support the uprising. They're just posting on Instagram as if nothing has happened, and that's where the problem comes. So I'm sure you've seen artists who have been posting on. They for example, stand-up comedians.
Sure.
They've completely lost their job, and some of them who are not celebrities, they are struggling to make the ends meet. They are just scrambling, and they have come up with creative ideas to keep going. For example, they asking for donation and putting up links for people to pay them as much as they want. So there are ways that we can all get creative and strike that balance between supporting the revolution and supporting our family and our dream.
Do you have any ideas around what businesses, in Iranian-owned businesses or Iranians, actually non-Iranian businesses as well, but let's talk about the diaspora for a second. What Iranians who are in business in the diaspora, let's say professionals as well, can do to support the fight for freedom in Iran?
There are different things that they can do. For example, one of the first things that come to my mind, and I've been doing that very frequently, is to find people inside Iran who are helping people and business owners and families that have been hit because of the situation in Iran. For example, families who live in certain provinces in Iran who have been badly hit because of the way the regime has oppressed people in those areas. You can find reliable people in those areas, people who are helping the families, and you can send them money, you can provide equipment or anything that you can do to help those families. That's one thing that I've been doing personally, especially in as I said, regions and provinces that have been badly hit because of the situation in the past 4 months.
How do you find that family?
What do you mean, how do you find? I mean...
when you say you support somebody who's been hit hard, where do you find how do you know who you're going to support?
Yeah. So we find the intermediary, the reliable person who, takes responsibility of finding those families, because, for example, for me, as somebody who's living in Canada, I don't know those people and those families. But I trust someone as an intermediary who is doing this good job, this charitable work, and we send money to those people, and they will distribute that money to those family needs. And this is just an example that I've personally done.
What you have a big online fan base or followership. Has the conversation you've been having with your followers or clients in the macro scale, in the those hundreds of thousands who follow you, especially those inside Iran or the Iranians in the diaspora, has the conversation changed in terms of what they're asking you and what they're wanting from you over the last 4 months?
Yes, it has. It's, again, going back to the metaphor of roller coaster. I've seen that. At this moment in time, today is January 16th. Folks may listen to this episode months after today, but at this moment, unfortunately, I should say that I get a lot of messages, hopeless messages, I would say. And that puts a burden on my shoulders. And first of all, let me contrast...
Hopeless about their business or hopeless about Iran?
Change. Hopeless about the change. And let me contrast that with the situation in the first and second months. The first and second months, it was like impassioned messages coming from Iranians, whether inside or outside of Iran. But this past 2-3 weeks, there is this widespread desperation and helplessness, and I would say depression, unfortunately, and that puts burden on my shoulders, and shows me how important my job is to help them see the full reality and not fall into the learned helplessness, going back to the first part of our conversation, because this is a long game. There will be peaks and valleys. We might be in a valley right now, but this is a wave. It goes up, it goes down, and this is a long game. And a lot of people just are in it
they want to see results.
Exactly. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
I do empathize with them, but any important achievement, any big success in our personal lives, professional lives, and in this situation, changing a country or changing a regime, it's a long game. It takes time. You have to be resilient. Just like I said, there will be peaks and valleys. And it's up to us, people with platforms, people with followers, to disseminate hope and to help people see the full reality.
So what's an example of, I know you can't do a professional coaching session in the middle of an interview necessarily, but what's if somebody comes to you and says, Dr. Anari, I'm this professional person and I am feeling hopeless and I'm feeling desperately depressed. I thought there was going to be change in Iran. It doesn't look like it's happening. There isn't millions of people in the streets, and this is affecting my work now and and my ability to move forward. What's an example of something you would say to them?
So I help my audience in different ways. I do one-to-one coaching. That's a different thing. Just like you said, we can't do a full coaching session in an interview. But the other thing that I do is that I do a lot of training. I do a lot of events. And I've been holding multiple free events over the past 4 months dedicated to supporting people during this, tense period. Whether it's in their businesses, in their personal life, self-care, marketing, and so on and so forth. So one thing that I do, and I'm using myself as an example, this is not the only thing that people can do. Influencers and people with platforms, they can offer some of their services or some of their products for free. I'm somebody who thinks of everything in the long term. So even as a business owner, I think if you take care of people now, and I'm telling this to my Iranian, fellow Iranians who might be business owners, a lot of them might be struggling because of the situation, especially those who reside in Iran. I'm telling them and inviting them, not telling them, I'm inviting the business owners to think of this situation as a long game. Invest in your relationship with people, support people, offer your services and products for free. You might be scrambling right now. You might want to earn more money. You're in a bad financial situation. But again, think of people. Give first. Do those free events. Give away your products and services. Be generous with your offers. Help people. Give them the opportunity, flexible payment plans. Help people, support people. You are depositing in your emotional bank with your audience. This is a long game. If you deposit in your emotional bank with people will, reciprocate in the long run. If you think of the situation as the long run. So what I'm trying to say is that both from the humanistic side, if you support people, it's a good deed. And from the business side, if you're thinking of it as in the long term, just giving to people and supporting people and helping people will pay back, eventually at the end.
That's great. I like it. Let me end off. You have to come back regularly. You're so good. It's so interesting getting your perspectives always. Let's end off. Let's turn it around and end off. Let's, as someone with a big platform, disseminate hope, as you said. What's something that recently, with respect to our situation as Iranians around the world, you have been exhilarated by?
I've been exhilarated just recently.
I mean, the problem is we seem to be increasingly dividing the first 2 months and the last 2 months, and it was this time of great promise and everything. So I'm trying to make it about more recently, so that we can hang our hats on some hopeful things that are happening more recently as well. Yeah,
I would say the crack within the Iranian regime and those people who are moving away from the core corrupt of this regime, and people who are, fleeing the country. I mean, people belonging to the regime who are fleeing the country and who are speaking out. That is something that has given hope to me personally. I think a lot of people are becoming aware of the true nature of this regime. People who previously might not have been aware of what these people stand for. That is something that's giving me hope, and I believe any kind of change stems from awareness. So we need to increase our knowledge, our information, our awareness, and naturally over time it will develop into some kind of change. But I have a question for you as well.
Sure.
I know.
Let me just say though that is a source of hope, or a source of it's very significant, the intra-regime squabbles. they've started executing, killing people from. A friend of mine, a non-Iranian, was saying when they killed somebody recently who was part of the, was a prominent member of the regime. They said, and I said he was a minister. They said, from the Shah's era. And I was like, no, he's a minister like 4 years ago, and they killed him. That starts happening. To me, all of what the regime is doing, even though on one side it can be seen as their tactics for suppressing, it can also be these are great examples of how this is a regime on the run that is extremely worried about its future. When you start executing, what other reason do you have for jailing a 15-year-old? There's no, it's not good PR. It's done out of fear. So anyway, go ahead. What's your question for me?
I noticed this shift.
Purple. I thought you were going to ask my favorite color.
No.
All right.
I noticed this shift in your energy comparing to, the beginning of our talk and right now. What changed for you?
How can I ask you how my energy has shifted?
In a positive direction.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sitting across from your effervescence.
No, I wasn't expecting that.
Kind of. Give
me a truthful answer.
I think, look, I keep saying these things. I do essays about stay optimistic, all of that. But I'm like everyone else. That roller coaster affects me as well. And I think being reminded that it's a marathon, not a sprint, which is something I've been saying over and over again. But having someone else say, hey, don't expect this all to happen today or tomorrow. There may be periods of days or weeks where it's in a down cycle and then it goes back up again and something exhilarating happens. All these opposition leaders come together and say the same thing at once, or there's a big demonstration in Iran that shows the strength of the people, or whatever it is. So I think this conversation, in the course of me asking you about your own prescriptions or thoughts, has reminded me of that. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. Beautiful.
What a great question you offered. People should end every interview that way. Tell me why you seem to be so much happier after talking to me. We finished our conversation. Gio, why are you so much happier now? You've just talked to me for half an hour. Clearly that affected you. But you're right. I thank you for observing my energy. Always a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for making
back.
the time, and to be continued.
Sure.
Dr. Shahab Anari here in the Roqe studio. This is Roqe, episode 230, The Uprising. There are many front lines in this revolution. My next guest is a renowned Iranian-American actor and activist. Navid Negahban was born and raised in Mashhad. He left Iran amidst the Iran-Iraq War in 1985 for Turkey, then to Bulgaria, later to Germany, where he spent 8 years honing his skills on stage. Before arriving in the United States, he's become a familiar face in TV and films, an award-winning actor and a star of the Iranian community in the process. So you have seen Navid in everything from 24 to Homeland to The West Wing, his starring role in the series Tehran, as well as playing the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, in the 2009 film Liberation. Navid is the founder of the Romani Center and Studios, an artist's colony and residency in California. He's been very active over the last 4 months with respect to the revolution bubbling in Iran and right now. Navid Negahban joins me from Lisbon, Portugal today. Hello, sir.
Hello to you and all the listeners or viewers. How are you guys?
Nice to have you back on the program, brother.
Thanks.
Very interesting to have you in Lisbon. I'm going to ask you about that. First of all, I should say I always want to talk about your riveting talents and works in film and TV. And I know you've been working on different projects currently, but it's hard to talk about anything but the current Iranian uprising right now. And the reality is you've given your platform, at least in social media, entirely over to amplifying voices and posting video messages about the revolution in Iran. Tell me how, first of all, the last 4 months have affected you.
Well, it hasn't been as hard as it has been on all the Iranian people who are in Iran fighting for their freedom. When you see on the streets, you see that they are going full force and they're trying to do their best. And what we can do from outside is just to 100% support them and back them up and use the platforms, use the platform. My platform is there for people. The only reason that I have a platform is because of the people, and it belongs to them. So whatever I can do, I wish I could do more.
You know, some of the actions of this regime are so barbaric that it's almost like the script would not be written because it would be considered too unrealistically evil. Like you starred in a film called The Stoning of Soraya M. And I remember that there was some criticism that, you know, this is not really the way Iran of today is. And yet we just saw public hangings, like Middle Ages style, of protesters in your hometown of Mashhad last month. How do you process this real life script?
Okay, the thing is that I have nothing against Islam, but I cannot stand when a pack of wild dogs are using Islam as a way of feeding themselves. The thing is that the hanging, the stoning, even you're being executed just for speaking up. This is not the Islam that I'm familiar with. The problem that we have is that group of people, the generation after the revolution, some of them who have been completely brainwashed by the regime, and they're still supporting the regime, and they're still believing that in the desert, the prophet opened his hand, and from each finger it was a water pouring into the buckets for the thirsty people. The problem that we have is that the group of Iranian people are still half asleep, and they're still believing the bullshit that is being fed to them for past 40 years. They are very greedy. So there are some people who are very greedy in Iran, and they are the ones who are benefiting from all these sufferings. And look at the people right now. They can't even get a gas can to heat up their houses. And at the same time, now they're shipping gas and they're exporting gas to the different countries. But
you know, I'm not sure. I'll ask you about it in a minute. I'm not sure about what we can say to the people inside Iran as those of us outside the diaspora, but we can certainly speak to our compatriots, our equals in the diaspora. And there are a few posts from you where you call out people in the diaspora who've remained silent or who are not speaking out as much. Navi, do you believe we all have a moral responsibility to be getting engaged in the fight for freedom in Iran? Or, you know, is it just everyone's choice to get involved or not in terms of those who are sitting in Toronto or LA or Sydney or Lisbon?
Of course. I mean, some of the diaspora, some of the people who are sitting right now outside of Iran, some of them, they were responsible for Iran becoming what it is right now. Those are the ones who started the revolution. I mean, even for me, we were kids, we were teenagers, but and for us, what was handed to us was a country in the middle of the war, no adult in the city. We were the kids who had to defend the city, protect the city. I mean, for us, the only thing that it was is that we make sure that our houses are protected, our neighbors' houses are protected, and our neighborhood is safe. I mean, that's what it was. And then later on, most of us, we left because I got to the point that personally I couldn't do anything, and I was getting myself always in trouble, so I decided to leave. And the journey has been tough, but I feel that right now, with this new wave, the brave youth, or see, the thing is that it's not even just the youth that are standing up. I think everybody is moving together, and that's the beauty of it, because it doesn't matter if you're inside the country, outside the country. I think everybody's joining forces.
But to the person who said, I mean, I know someone who I was in contact with, who actually, she's living in California, so one of the places that you live or have a home. And she was saying, and she's sort of posting things on social media that have nothing to do with the uprising in Iran. And she's Iranian, but she says, this is not really my thing. Yeah, there's terrible things happening all over the world. I live in California now. Why should I be? I don't care to be an activist. What do you say to that person?
Everybody is free to do what they want to do, as long as their freedom doesn't take away from my freedom. I mean, if she doesn't want, I cannot force her to stand up for something that she doesn't believe in. See, one of the things that you need to understand,
I think she believes in it. She just doesn't want to necessarily put herself out there, or
see, the thing is that I feel sometimes people, the ones who cannot do anything by joining forces and say things, sometimes by saying things, you might also hurting the movement when you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, even for me, I'm not a political person. I just see what it is. I'm a humanitarian. I'm trying to help people as much as I can, and I'm standing out there. I'm just trying to be the amplifier, try to get their voice out there.
Right.
And for me, if somebody doesn't feel like getting involved or jumping in, that's fine with me. I mean,
but
we are looking. See what we are looking for.
But you're posting videos. You're posting videos saying, "Come on, let's go, get up." This. I mean, about whether it's about the national strikes or it's about demonstrations or whatever. I mean, you want people out there, right?
Of course, I want people out there. I wish that all of us would have get together and move forward, and just clean up this mess. These people that are sitting there, they're robbing us right now, and they are delaying the process. And this regime, it will never be what it was again. Probably will change. I see there are changes coming, up and down, back and forth, left and right. Whatever it is, there is a change coming. But the problem is that until this change happens, they keep selling pieces out. They're destroying the country, and then there's not much left. So I feel that people, they need to wake up. I mean, if you're in the country and if you're cold, when you're living in one of the countries that is one of the richest oil countries, why are you the one who's suffering when the gas and oil is being shipped somewhere else?
Right.
As قدیم گفتن, what to say? They said چراغ که به خونه رفت به مسجد حرام است. What's that? I don't even know how to translate that. If you know how to translate it, translate it. but if you have a candle, you should light your house before lighting a mosque.
Yeah.
So I just feel all these judges, the sentences that they're giving out, all these judges, they need to be punished. They need to be punished for what they are doing, as they are the criminals. And somebody has to, in Iran, somebody has to teach them a lesson and show them what it means when they're going and they're sentencing all the Iranian youth or the future of Iran to be executed just because of what they said. When they were going around, they've killed over almost 500.
Yep.
It is more than 500.
At least.
It definitely is more than 500, and they keep killing. And at the same time, nobody does anything about it.
I'm listening to you. I'm feeling like your energy, Navid. I mean, I know it's late in Lisbon as well. So, but you sound frustrated, which is understandable. I think we all feel that. You sound somewhat exhausted by this whole thing. Are you? When you said earlier, sometimes it feels like we're speaking out and nothing's changing. What do you do in those moments? You're clearly not giving up. You post every day. You're very active. What do you say to yourself in those moments where it feels like we're not getting to where we want to get to?
Oh, wow. When I left Iran, I was a refugee. I lived in a refugee camp. And when I was in Germany, when I told other people in the camp, I want to be an actor, they were all laughing at me. You don't speak German, you're coming here and you want to be an actor. I started my career there. I did okay. Then when I was working for a theater company in Germany, which was one of the big theater companies in Germany, I told them that I want to go to America. I want to be an actor in America. I never forget the director of our company. He said, I went to Actors Studio in New York. I graduated from Actors Studio, and I was this, and I was that. And I'm back here in Germany. I'm back in here and directing a play in the theater, and that's what I'm doing. Right now, you're starting your career here. The people they are knowing, they get to know you. You're doing commercials, you're doing this, you're doing that. Stay here. So now I have to go. So I left Germany. It took me almost 10 years. And every night during that 10 years, every night I was saying, excuse my language, what the fuck did I do? Why did I leave Germany? I had this, I had that. Why did I come here? And then in the morning I would wake up and I say, maybe one more month. And I think I did okay for myself. I'm happy where I'm in my life with what I did. I did most of the things that I wanted to do. Now, this movement is not going to happen overnight. It's exhausting. It's tiring. They are throwing you curveballs right now. I believe, this is my opinion, I think one of the reasons that the gas companies or the gas lines in certain parts of Iran or Tehran is shut down is just because they want to keep the people busy. If you're freezing your ass off and you have to take care of your family, you will never go on the street and protest against the government. So you want to feed, you want to keep your family warm. That's why they're shutting down the gas. They don't give you gas, and that's one of the things that's happening there. But everything is there. Go and take it. It belongs to you. It doesn't belong to this handful of people who are sitting there and robbing you. The guy who is coming and telling you, oh, if you eat more than one meal a day, this is a crime. Look at his neck. His neck is twice as your waist, and he's sitting there and he's telling you eat only once a day. I mean, this is just, I don't know. I mean, this is what frustrates me because all these people who are sitting there, and I have no idea where do they get all these bullshit that they're feeding people, all these stories that, oh, it's like that he was there when so and so was running with a sword in the middle of the desert, and all of a sudden the desert turned into field of green.
Right,
What
right.
the hello? I mean, this is really these are the charlatans of our time. They're very dangerous. They're dangerous not because they are dangerous. They're dangerous because they tell all those stories so convincingly, and they even believe in the bullshit that they are saying.
What's it like to be in Lisbon? Tell me about the energy there, both from the Iranian community and non-Iranians. You posted a video of being at a demonstration there, which sounded like there was a fair amount of people in Portugal. On side, we don't hear a lot about demonstrations in Lisbon. Tell us about it.
But we don't have that many. The community here is not that huge. Maybe a few hundred people. And the few hundred people that have been very active, the few hundred people that are here in Lisbon, in Porto, and some Algarve, and there are different areas. And they get together, and they're working very hard to get the message out there. The member of the parliaments here, they have been very active. The city has been very open-minded. The city, some of them, they took the what is that? The political
guardianships,
sponsorship. Yeah. For some of the people who have been arrested.
Yeah.
And on the news channels, you see that almost every other day there's something about Iran. So the community, even Portuguese community, they have been very active. Also, their celebrities, the people, they're active. They're speaking out, and even though that the population is very small, but there's a movement, which is good. Today they had a gathering in front of the parliament.
In Strasbourg or in Lisbon as well?
In Lisbon as well. They were there at 4:00. The group that they're active here in Lisbon, and they are working nonstop. They've been trying.
Navid, in terms of next steps for the diaspora, are you somebody are you energized or positive about some of these people? You must know some of these opposition leaders. They've been called leaders, at least from Nazanin Boniadi to Golshifte and Hamed Ismailioun and Reza Pahlavi, etc., coming together and trying to form some sort of united coalition. Is that something that you advocate for?
I would definitely stand by them. I mean, I know each and every one of them except Hamed personally. I've seen what they have done when it wasn't a movement. I've seen how active they have been, even when they weren't in the spotlight. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they are not doing what they are doing just because they want to get the attention. They have been doing it for years. Nazanin has been working non-stop. Golshifte has been outspoken. I met her a few years back when she came to the US for the first time, and then we stayed in touch. She's a sweetheart, and she speaks out, and I think that she's very brave. She's one of the bravest women who I've met when everybody else was still trying to be cautious. She just threw a cautious out of the window, and she went out there and she said, "Here I am. What do you want to do?" And I respect that. Reza Pahlavi, if you listen to him, he hasn't changed. I mean, and the entire family. I met his wife when we were filming in Greece. When I was filming in Greece, she was there helping all the refugees. And the way that this woman, there is no camera, there's nothing there, and this woman, without even, she's there. She's with the kids. it was one of the things that kind of, there were some of her behaviors that I saw from her, and some of the way that she was interacting with the refugees kind of reminded me of Shah Banu, Farah Diba. I mean, the way that she was interacting, it was very, very down to earth, very genuine, being with the people. And the couple of times that I met her, she was very.
This is Yasmin?
Yeah,
Yasmin
Jasmine,
Pahlavi, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know Ali Karimi?
I know of him. I don't know him personally. I know of him. Yes,
Of course.
And Massey has been outspoken for a while, and the problem that we have is that everybody is like that. The gathering that we had, everybody was fighting about the flag.
Yeah.
The first gathering, very first gathering that we put together in Los Angeles.
You mean whether to have the Shir Khorshid or not, or is that the
have a Shir Khorshid, not have a Shir Khorshid, having a Taj, not having the Taj, having this, having that, and everybody was, no, we have to say this, we have to say that, we need to do this, we need to do that. And I went up to them and I said, you guys are fighting over the flag when you don't even have the country. Let's have the country, and then we agree on the flag. The flag doesn't do anything for you when you're standing and there's no country to put this flag into it. I mean, what do you want to do? It takes time, but I think we just need to keep going. Am I exhausted? Yes, I'm sure I'm not as exhausted as lots of people in Iran who are fighting for this. But for me, my exhaustion, my frustration comes a little bit because I cannot be there.
This may seem like a strange question, but you are literally one of the most prolific actors I know or I've seen. I include Iranian, non-Iranian. I mean, you just go through your IMDb and it's basically it's a list of what films and TV shows that have been made in the last 20 years. Most of the prominent ones Navid Negahban has been in, or the good ones, I should say, at least. So I can only imagine that you continue to get offers to do things, and you continue to have a lot of options in terms of what you want to do. Has the last 4 months somehow changed what you want to do in terms of your creative work?
Yeah, kind of. There were contracts that I had to do. But at the same time, there is I don't know, maybe it's, I wasn't looking to find a new job. Maybe because I was too busy. I was too busy paying attention to what was going on, what was happening. Even though that might have become a little bit quiet, but I felt me just repeating and saying what everybody else is saying. Okay, it's just another voice, but let's see if we can do something.
Yeah.
So, so those things we don't need to talk about it. You just need to do it. So you just go ahead and do it, and just you're hoping for the best. Let's see. Let's see what's going to happen. Let's see what's going to come out of it.
But in terms of the kind of roles, in terms of the kind of roles you'll take or something, I mean, are you affected by this? Do you sort of go, you know what, I'm done with making comedies for now because I'm just so pissed off, or I don't know what the
Actually, I don't mind to do some comedy. I need some laughter. I need to make people. But yes. No, not really. I mean, I never, I didn't, I don't, because I don't judge the character, I don't judge the script. If I like the script, if I like the character, then I will look into it.
Yeah.
Until then, I don't know what to say. But there are certain roles that you want to play, and there are certain roles that you don't want to touch. There have been some of those roles that it came to me, and I had to say, I'm sorry, it's not something, it's not right for me. I'm sure that somebody else can do an amazing job, but it's not the right project for me. But
it's such a strange time, man. It's such a strange time for us as Iranians, because honestly, I mean, I'm aware of some of the projects you've been working on recently, and I think, or you know, the contracts maybe you had before this the uprising began, but I you know, I instinctively want to do an interview with you about your latest projects and tell me about this character, and the kind of interview we would do, and that hopefully we will do again. But it just right now it feels like just strange to be talking about that, you know. And I think that's
it is. I have you haven't seen any of my posts. I haven't. I mean, I haven't.
I've seen all your posts.
No, I know, but I mean, what I'm saying is that I had projects that came out.
Right.
And
even you're not telling anybody about them. Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care. It is out there. You guys want to watch it? Just Google it and go watch it. That's what it is. I used to be very excited about my projects. I'm still excited about my projects, but for me, wanting to, I don't know.
It's hard, man. You know, Babak Amini was telling me recently, of course, the great guitarist, our friend, you know, that it's the first time in his life. I mean, here's a guy who is basically exiled from Iran, has been arrested at the airport, has been through the whole kit and caboodle of things that well-known Iranians, dissidents go through. Yet he said this is the first time that he doesn't feel like playing gigs. He just doesn't feel like, you know, he doesn't have the same desire right now, because he's so consumed in, both in terms of the heartbreak and perhaps the energy of a possibility of change with what's going on in Iran, that he just doesn't have that desire. It's quite incredible how it's really affected us all. It's really affected us in this way.
It's crazy. I used to they used to send me the script. I would read the script overnight, analyze the script, analyze the character. By the next day, or maximum 2 days after receiving the script, I knew exactly what I want. I knew exactly what's going on, and that's it. I was sending my notes, and I have scripts that have been sitting here for weeks. I can't even. I see that, and I open it, and the moment that I open the script on my computer, all of a sudden a message pops up. Okay, so and so got arrested.
Yeah.
This is what's happening. Then you can completely. It's just kind of has been non-stop.
Why is it so hard for us now? Someone like you've been aware of this regime for the last 43, 44 years. You've been a victim of it. Why is it so difficult right now? Is it because we're just seeing more than we would in the past? Is it because there's kids involved? Why does it feel so atrocious?
Now it feels that the people are woken up. See, the thing is that it was like was that the red pill or blue pill? We already took that red pill. We were already aware. We were coming out. That's the reason that we came out, because we saw exactly what's happening and what's going on. But there were so many people who were stuck. And every time when I said something, even if I said something, I was attacked verbally. Every time I was saying something, people were saying, "Oh, no, we are very happy. This is fantastic. This is great. You don't know what you're talking about. You just sold the country. You're going over there. You are a Vatan Furush. You are a traitor. Just go." I said, "Oh, okay, I go." So sometimes you see the hole. You tell a person, just watch out for a hole. There's a hole. Be careful. You keep saying it, but then you just sit back and you watch it. Now, if this person is getting to the hole, they see the hole, turns around and says, "Oh my God, there is a hole. Let's do something about this hole. Let's get rid of it. Let's fill it in. Let's fix it." Then you say, "Okay, I'm jumping in. I'm helping." I'm willing to help. And this is one of those movements. We just cannot give up. We cannot give up. I hope that the people they wake up. They wake up in Iran. They see exactly what's happening, because all these kids who are being arrested, all these kids who are being executed. This is not. If you don't wake up, tomorrow you might be mourning for your own child. فردا شاید به سینه‌تون بزنه واسه بچه خودت. Yes, just wake up. Wake up. The neighbor's child, neighbor's son is your son.
Well, let me ask you a final question on that note, which is, and I really appreciate the time, brother. I always like having you on the program. I hope we'll do it in a more positive space and mindset in the coming months or years. But the fact that it's late at night there and you're doing this, I really appreciate it. Are you? I mean, I sort of know the answer to this because you told the story about coming to America, and I remember the last time we spoke in detail, and the stories of you being a cab driver and doing all the things you did before you became the star you are. It took a long time, as they say, it took a long time to become an overnight sensation. So I know you're someone who believes in hope and moving forward. Do you feel, with that said, optimistic about 2023 for us?
I do, and it's going to be a very rough year. It is going to be very rough. It's going to be very rough. I mean, the first thing that you need to do, people, they need to wake up and clean up their mess. And clean up the neighborhood, clean up the stench. And the stench is that the judge was sitting there and sentencing everyone to be executed. That judge needs to be questioned.
So when you say it's going to be a rough year, you mean bloodshed? Is that what you mean?
It needs to be. It needs to be. These people, these bastards, are not going to learn the lessons unless somebody teach them the lesson. Now, this lesson that's being, however it is, all these people that are sitting over there and they think that they are above the law and above God. What they are doing, they are killing God. They are killing God's creation in the name of God. Who are these people who think they are above God? If God created this, if God wants to punish it, God can easily get rid of it, punish it. So who are you? Everybody has a choice. They're given choice. So all these choices are out there. So you cannot go out there and say, no, this is what the people should do. I think that Iranian people they've been very kind to these mullahs who are abusing and they're taking advantage of other people. They should be questioned. They should be questioned. How do you want to question them is up to you.
We've spoken so long, your light has gone out, literally. The electricity has gone out in Portugal.
Well, I think it's time for us to say goodbye. But good luck. Good luck to everyone. Love you all.
Navid-Jan, thanks for this, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the chat. Thanks for the time. Hopefully we're going to catch up soon.
Hopefully.
Let's see.
Take care of yourself.
Okay. Bye, Sean. Thanks. Bye-bye. Love. Bye.
The great Navid Negahban in Lisbon, Portugal. That's full time for Roqe for today. Thank you to the amazing team who put this show together. Savi Roham, Anahita, Patty Saw, Pega, Meritot, and Groovy Shaya. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you have not done so already on any or all of our platforms. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. Mizun Bashi.